another example of fractional development working, early on in my history with it, and another proof point for me, which led me to where I am today, was, well, this is my first fractional development hire at Hidden Levers, the last company that I started and eventually sold. And the scenario there was that early on I had built this risk management system, portfolio stress testing system for financial advisors. What did it do? Well, if an advisor inputted their client's portfolio, so all of their investments, then the system could be used to measure the risk of that portfolio in different economic scenarios. So say if interest rates keep rising, if the Federal Reserve decides to hike, or maybe home prices, I don't know, inexplicably start slipping. Hard to imagine that now, but of course there are scenarios that could exist. Or if the AI bubble pops, I don't know, whatever it might be, all sorts of different forward-looking scenarios, that's what we would test. But there's a critical bottleneck. It's difficult for a customer, a financial advisor, to use such a system if they don't have all their client data already there. It's a real pain to have to manually import this stuff. And so we needed integrations. We needed integrations with a variety of what are called portfolio management systems and custodian systems where they actually had all of the customer accounts. And so the first integration was an integration with TDAI, it's called. And that's kind of funny to look at now. It makes it sound like an AI shop. No, TDAI was TD Ameritrade Institutional. And so TD Ameritrade Institutional, the arm of TD at that time that served financial advisors, and we did an integration with them. Well, I didn't write that integration. Actually, we brought in a fractional developer, a senior developer that I knew named Sahil. And what Sahil did was he and I, we got together and we worked out the architecture. We worked out a generic pluggable architecture very quickly where the advisor, so there would be a UI where the advisor would, enter credentials, and this would lead to, a call to, in this case, to TD, and we would get back, a token. So we would get back the credentials, and we would save that in our database. So we'd save that. And then, of course, we would do the ongoing calls every night. But we created a pluggable architecture where this piece, the data entry and the call, where you're going to call to get those credentials and to actually establish the connection, that was configurable. And it was stored every time in a standardized way within our database so that every night our generalized sort of integration job, if you will, could run all the different integrations and sync across all the data for financial advisors. So this is kind of what we mapped out. And it really took, one meeting plus some back and forth. In those days, we were actually using Skype as our messaging system. Some back and forth, on Skype to hash out some of the details. And so Sahil and I got that hashed out. Now, here's the thing. What did he do from there? Like, what was his role in delivering this? So, of course, he wrote the code. That's obvious. But what else did he do? Being a good senior developer, he saw that, honestly, at that point, and I was the only developer up to that time, at that point, our version control and our CI/CD setup was not very good. So he took it upon himself to improve our CI/CD. I hesitate to call it that. It's sort of that is the modern terminology, but ours was really not that sophisticated. But he went ahead and improved that. And then here's what's crucial, and what I think a lot of folks don't expect is possible from a fractional developer. He handled communication with TD. This was a big deal. I was CEO and effectively CTO of this company, of Hidden Levers. I didn't have time to, follow up with these, back and forth calls with the TD integration developers and with the folks on that side. So he handled that communication. He was on those meetings. He gnashed out, any issues, questions with their APIs, etc., so that I didn't have to. And that's why, because he was a senior developer who had tons of experience, had been through all of this before, many other roles. And so he was able to do all of that and deliver against that. And so we had this first integration. So how long did it take us to get up and running? Well, I think it took us a few days to sort of figure out on the front end and have an initial conversation with TD. But from there, it was 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, he had finished that first version of the code, and we were testing with TD. And the TD folks actually commented that it was the fastest integration delivery they had ever seen. And so from my perspective, as the CEO of Hidden Levers, who had contracted a fractional developer, I came away thinking, wow, this is incredible. We went on to keep Suhail building integrations for the next 9 years. And he continued to perform in that fashion, built over 25 integrations over time, and maintained the vast majority of those. And so this was, a proof point that not only can a fractional developer handle writing of the code, but in this integration use case, they can also handle communicating with the third parties, on the company's behalf, and be the face of the company, as it were, if necessary, and get the overall job done.